Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for the Tech Guy is provided by Cachefly. CACHEFLY.com. Hi, this is Leo Laporte, and this is my Tech Guy podcast. This show originally aired on the Premier Network on Saturday, May 27th, 2017. This is episode 1390. Enjoy. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the Tech Guy. Time to talk computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography, smartphones, smartwatches, you know, the rigmarole, all that jazz, all the things that are changing this world of ours, for good or ill, but they are changing. Mostly for good, right? You know, I just saw an article, interesting story. I had last week. Google announced at its big developers conference, they call it Google I/O, that they expected smartphones in the next generation or two to have built-in artificial intelligence hardware. Like a chip, you know, just like you have right now. You have what they call a general purpose CPU that does all the thinking, and then in most computers now you also have circuitry dedicated to graphics, right? Now they say you're going to have a third chip in your mobile devices to power AI, and apparently Apple, anxious not to be scooped in this, just leaked that they're doing the same thing. They're building something they call a fusion process. I'm sorry, it's Apple's neural engine. The Apple neural engine. Which would help with face recognition, speech recognition. No public comment from Apple. It is an anonymous leak, but this is often how Apple, and it makes sense right after Google and Amazon both announced kind of the same initiatives, that Apple might want to say, hey, me too. We're doing it too. Yeah, we are. They've got to feel a little sting because really I think Siri was the first voice assistant, wasn't it? It predates all the others. Apple bought a company to get Siri. It's, you know, Siri's the thing where you talk to the phone and it responds back. I often swear it. I'm embarrassed to admit this, but I often swear at Siri because Siri doesn't seem to be, you know, she's more intelligent than a 3-year-old, so I probably shouldn't swear at her. I mean, she's doing her best, but the promise is so much more, isn't it? That's the problem. These companies act as if they've got, you know, HAL 9000 in your smartphone. Google's got theirs. Microsoft has Cortana. Amazon, of course, has the Echo. So the only one who doesn't seem to have anything like this is Facebook. And even Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg made that his project last year to create a home assistant he calls Jarvis after... is Jarvis the name of Iron Man's voice assistant? Is that it? You'll forgive me. My comic book lore is not as up-to-date as it ought to be. If I were pretending to be a geek and all that. But not all geeks are comic book aficionados. That's a different thing. That's a slightly off to the left there. So everybody's got one. I think Google's kind of got the lead here. But Apple wants to make sure that you know that they will, you know, we're not ignoring this. Facebook's definitely in the rear because even when Mark Zuckerberg built his own for his house, they've never made that a public project. He showed some videos and it really was kind of dopey. It wasn't as good as Amazon. It's like, Mark, that's nice, but really, you know, you could just buy an Amazon Echo. It would turn on the lights. All the things that he made his Jarvis do. He said his wife, Priscilla, doesn't like Jarvis too much because, yeah, this is very common, because, you know, she'll leave the room and she'll stop moving in the room, or guests will stop moving in the room and the lights will just go off because Jarvis thinks, well, there's nobody here. Little things like that. Minor details. Those of us who live on the cutting edge of technology, we're used to that. Engineers at Apple, according to Bloomberg Technology, Mark Gurman, who has great sources at Apple, his leak told him, are racing to catch their peers at Amazon and Alphabet. Alphabet's Google. I know that's confusing. I'm going to call it Google. Siri gave Apple an early advantage in voice recognition, he writes, but competitors have since been more aggressive. And frankly, if you've used all of these, you realize Amazon and Google have the lead, and Google's going to probably start pulling ahead. So Apple kind of leaking out, oh no, we're going to put a chip in there is just their way of saying, hey, we got it too. Hey. Speaking of AI, it's official now. Google's, what do they call it? AlphaGo. This is their artificial intelligence that last year beat one of the world's best Go players. This Go is probably the hardest game for a computer to play. Computers have been better than humans at chess for a decade, but Go was a little more difficult. Last year, Lee Sedol, who was one of the best players in the world, was beat by Google's AlphaGo. Well, today there's a match going. Is it going on yet? It might be going on now. The third match in a 3-game series with the world champion, Ke Jie, a Chinese Go master. Ke Jie. But it doesn't matter what happens today because Ke Jie has already lost the first 2 games. So you can pretty much say computers now can beat humans at Go. Interesting kind of difference in the way the Go community is taking this. The chess community was, I think, for a while a little depressed. It's like, why play it anyway? And then if a computer can win, who cares? I don't care anymore. I'm going to go play checkers. But after a while, the chess community embraced computers, and now almost everybody, in fact, I think everybody at the professional level, international masters and grandmasters, use computers to train with. They used to use other humans. Now they train with computers because they're better. The Go community, it's interesting, though. Immediately, their reaction was, this is beautiful. AlphaGo is playing beautifully. We're learning from AlphaGo. In fact, the world champion Ke Jie said he had adopted some of AlphaGo's strategies. He was so impressed by the beauty of its thought. Mr. Ke, according to experts, played a near-perfect game of Go for the first 100 moves. Actually, the experts were the AlphaGo scientists. They said, oh, he was playing really well. He's playing as well as AlphaGo. The problem is humans. That's the problem. Ke said in the middle of the game when he got excited because he thought, I might actually be able to win this one, he says, I was very excited. I could feel my heart bumping. Maybe I was too excited because I made some stupid moves. He said, maybe that's the weakest part of human beings. We're emotional. We're human. The machine never gets tired, never gets excited, never gets emotional. In fact, the weirdest thing about AlphaGo, this artificial intelligence, is it's programmed. Humans like to crush their opponents in chess and Go. They like to win decisively. The computer doesn't care. The computer just says a win is a win is a win, which is, true, but very computery. So the first game, it won by the smallest possible margin, a half a point. You couldn't win by less. But the scientist said, well, that's just how it's programmed. Is if it thinks it's going to win, it doesn't care by how much. Humans, we want to win. We want to best the other guy. That's why we play games. That is one thing that the chess community did say about how computers play chess is they're not human. They don't play like, not that they're, amazingly better, yes, but that's not what's not human. They're kind of mechanical almost. They're not artistic. And that's what's different in Go. The masters at Go, and I'm not a master, said, oh, it was beautiful the way AlphaGo was playing. Beautiful. 88, interesting. 8888 asked Leo, how long before we have machines that really seem human? Some say just a matter of a decade or two. 8888 asked Leo, let's talk. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Oh, yeah, baby. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Yeah, baby. Mm-hmm. I'll dedicate this to Kim Schaffer, who's answering the phones. Oh.
Slaving over a hot phone.
You like Barry White? You like the Barry White?
I actually do.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love him.
Comes from my time working in oldies, I guess.
I
like it all.
Yeah. Kim is answering the phones. She's been here since 4 in the morning, like a good baker, letting the dough rise, the yeast permeate.
The funny thing about that is, I cut it the closest I've ever cut it today. Traffic on the freeway, not my fault.
Well, it is Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah, well, accidents, but
yeah, and of course,
bad day to play bumper cars.
As we always do on Memorial Day, we thank those who have given their all for our country.
We salute you.
Yes. You have some callers, do you? By any chance? By any weird?
Ron in Charlotte, North Carolina needs help with a Windows 10 reinstall.
Okay.
I think you can handle that.
Thank you, Ms. Schaffer. Hello, Ron in North Carolina. How are you? Ron. Oh, I got to push. Wait a minute, Ron. There's a thing I have to do. Now you can speak.
There's the chime. Hey, Leo. How you
doing?
Happy Memorial Day weekend.
Thank you. You too.
Hey, just general question. I've got my desktop PC that I've done the traditional Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 10. And in the past, I've always done it. I've quoted it doing a Leo.
Clean install, right?
Clean install.
Yes, sir.
And I was listening to your show last week. You talking about, like every 6 months. And since we now do Windows 10 and I don't have the install disk and didn't have to enter a serial number, do I just back the system up, blow it away, and then go to Windows?
You can do that. And so where you get the install disk is from Microsoft. They have something they call the media, what do they call it? The USB Media Creator or Media Creation Tool. I think that's it. If you Google Microsoft Media Creation Tool, and then you'll download a very generic, which is kind of what you want, if you ask me, version of Windows. That eliminates any of the stuff that your manufacturer put on there, including all the trialware from McAfee and stuff. There may be some manufacturer stuff you do want, updaters and things like that, special settings things. But this is pure Windows. And then because you've activated it on Windows 10, Microsoft treats your machine as entitled. They call it an entitlement. You are entitled to Windows 10. You do not need a serial number. You will have updates forevermore. It's done.
And excuse me. I know it says it's the Pro version or whatever, I guess, based on the previous install, so I guess it'll pick that up as well.
Yes. Yeah. I can't remember if the Media Creation Tool offers you Pro and Home, but get Pro,
okay.
Obviously, yeah. It may just be that it's all built in. I bet you it is. It's all built in.
Okay, yeah, it's just been sluggish. I had you boot up and then it's maybe 2 to 3 minutes before the system will respond to input or anything like that.
I do that all the time. In fact, I just got a new Windows machine. I'm actually really happy with the Lenovo Yoga X1, the 2nd generation. Just got this on Thursday. And the first thing I do, of course, and your machine has this as well, is I make the USB. Your machine should have this, a USB recovery tool. Even though you've upgraded to Windows 10, it should make one for you. Mm-hmm. And then what I like to do is image the drive once I've got all the stuff I want on it, and it's operating without problems. If there are problems, I don't make an image. But making an image of the completed system means that you can get right back to where you are right now with just a restore. And you won't need to make that media creation tool. It doesn't hurt, though. Everybody should, in my opinion, everybody should have a USB key that you can boot to that has Windows on it, because there's recovery tools on there. It's often the only way you can get back if you have a problem. And it's I don't usually keep a computer for more than 6 months, but if I do, certainly by 6 months I will have wiped the drive and reinstalled. Partly because I just screw things up by trying stuff. I try every little thing. I've been looking for good Windows email programs because I can't stand Microsoft's Outlook. And so I've installed 4 or 5 now. So probably I've already, kind of messed up. I probably shouldn't make a backup of this right now. So yeah, you're set. All you need to do is reinstall Windows 10. It'll activate, and you're good to go.
Okay. Well, I do appreciate it, and thank you very much.
Thank you for calling. I appreciate it. The reason I always recommend the clean install is, I have to say, both Apple and Microsoft have gotten very good at the upgrade. And I think the problems we used to have, for instance, going from XP to Vista or, 95 to ME, those problems are kind of a thing of the past. They're pretty good about it. Nevertheless, there is stuff still on there left over from the old operating system. And with Windows, one of the problems, we call it DLL hell. There's a file type called a Dynamic Linked Library, or DLL. You'll see them all over your drive. In fact, even on a fresh install of Windows, you'll see 4 or 5 C++ DLLs from 4 or 5 different years. And different programs are designed to, use the 2008 version or the 2013 version. So you'll have those all on there. And sometimes having conflicting DLLs, that's what we call DLL hell, can really cause unreliability. If you wipe the drive, and I mean wipe it, format it, erase it completely and reinstall Windows, then you only have the DLLs on there that come with the current operating system. You're going to be much better off. It also has the other virtue on Windows, especially, of rebuilding the registry. The registry can get out of hand. It shouldn't be more than 2 gigabytes, but often does. And that's actually, I would say, of all the reasons for reinstalling Windows, that's the big one. I don't use registry cleaners. Those aren't a great choice, in my opinion. They're risky. And if they're not risky, then they're not doing anything. So I would just say, anytime your PC gets slow or starts to feel sluggish or isn't booting as fast as it used to, that's a good time to reinstall. Eric, New Jersey. Hi, Eric. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hey, Leo. Big listener. Thanks for taking my call.
Thanks for calling.
Thanks. I'm a little wary about something that I've read is coming around the corner with Apple. I'm a big Apple device user. I got desktops, laptops, phones, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I've read that on June 15th, Apple is going to effectively require that if you have a third-party program that's accessing information on iCloud, that they're going to effectively require that you have two-factor authentication set up in order to generate an app-specific password for that program to access the iCloud data.
Right.
Is that something you've heard about?
Yeah. So two-factor, which you do want, is a good thing to turn on. The problem with two-factor is not all applications use modern authentication techniques. Many, you've got a lot of applications where you just log in with your password, your Apple password, and it goes, okay, that's fine. We'll use the iCloud. But if you turn on two-factor, that won't be enough. Apple will say, well, yeah, but what's the second factor? And these applications don't know anything about it. So that's the workaround. Hang on, I got to take a break. I'll explain what app-specific passwords are. They're very common. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. That magical music can mean only one thing. We're getting funky.
Getting funky.
And Scott Wilkinson is here. He is our home theater geek at twit.tv/HTG. We'll get back to that discussion on two-factor authentication because I really want to bring that point home. But Scott's here, and we got to talk home theater. First of all, you told me you have a new beer from Bang & Olufsen?
Can you believe it? You know the company Bang & Olufsen,
B&O,
right?
yeah.
B&O, Danish audio company. They make really excellent sounding speakers and products and so on, and they're very involved in Danish design. So their speakers really look weird and unusual. Weird in a good way. I like weird.
Yeah.
But I saw a story this week that I just couldn't believe. It's from they have a division, B&O, called Play, which is portable speakers, headphones, that sort of thing, Bluetooth, that kind of thing. And the story was that they've actually teamed up with a Danish craft brewer.
What?
To make a beer. They call it Bayo Brew.
Wow.
Mick Keller is the brewer. And what's weird about it, what's really interesting about it, is that during fermentation, they lower one of their play speakers called the A1 into the fermentation tank and play music in the beer for like 2 weeks from an iPod that's kind of dangling outside of the tank.
That's just ridiculous. Why would that make any difference at all?
Well, you know, I don't know if it would. The head brewer says, by playing music in the fermenting tank, we're adding a fifth ingredient that takes the beer to a new level. As the music plays, it pumps out a unique pattern of vibration that assists the yeast during fermentation.
Oh, it assists well, it's happy little yeasts.
Yes, and it encourages the yeast to produce more flavorful esters than it would have without the presence of music.
Wow. Nothing like flavorful esters to really
nothing
bring
I
a
can
beer
think
alive.
of.
Yeah. Mm.
You know, if you want to learn about this, I wrote about it on AVS Forum. It's a short little piece, but it's an IPA. And I have to say, I'm not a fan of IPAs. I don't like bitter, so it's not my favorite kind of beer. But what I really wanted to do was, my first thought was immediately, well, I want a glass or a bottle of this beer with the music infusion in it, and then the same beer without the music infusion, and do a double blind test.
That's the scientist in you. Yes, that's good.
That's the geek in me for sure.
That's the geek in you. I want a double blind. Let's see if it works.
Let's see if it makes any difference whatsoever.
You did something fun on your Home Theater Geeks podcast this week, because Thursday,
yep,
which was what, May 25th?
May 25th, 2017.
Was the 40th anniversary of, what do you think, 40 years ago, May 25th, 1977, Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope.
Actually, it wasn't called A New Hope at the time.
It wasn't called Episode 4, was it?
Yeah, I believe it was called Episode 4. I'm not 100%
no, that's
sure.
That was all retro. That was all retroactively, yeah.
The original movie was just called Star Wars. That's it.
Yeah.
And
40 years ago. Is that amazing?
40 years ago, it was released to the public. It was introduced. It was released into theaters.
I remember waiting in line, May 1977.
Yep.
I think I was in San Jose at one of those dome theaters they used to have down there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was 20 years old.
I saw it in San Francisco. I was still living in Santa Cruz at the time.
Had no idea what it was going to be, right? Had no idea.
And then that first scene of the spaceship, the Imperial cruiser coming overhead, was astonishing.
Yes.
I mean, it's like one of the seminal scenes in all of sci-fi movies. Well, I worked pretty hard, and I actually got on my show, my Home Theater Geeks podcast last Thursday, one of the re-recording mixers who worked on the original movie. His name was Mike Minkler.
Wow.
Is Mike Minkler. And he came to me. He agreed to do this. I couldn't believe it. He's currently in China mixing a movie over in China, and he agreed to come on my show. It was 5 in the morning for him.
Wow.
I mean, I was just so amazed and eternally grateful that this guy would get up so early and come into the studio. He did it from the studio he was working in. And he told stories about
how neat.
About doing the movie. He was one of the re-recording mixers, so we got kind of geeky about what that means and what were some of the things he did. For example, he said this was one of the first movies ever that we did what's called LFE. They didn't call it LFE, low frequency effects, which are things like explosions and spaceships, really low frequency stuff in the soundtrack getting shunted off to a subwoofer. Before that, everything had been played on the main speakers.
I remember George Lucas really made a big deal about designing theaters that were capable of playing his movies.
Exactly. That's, in fact, how THX came to be.
Yeah. But I think the original movies theaters you and I saw it in probably didn't have subwoofers.
Probably didn't.
They didn't need them. So tune in that show. You can listen to it at twit.tv/HTG. Now, this Thursday, there's another anniversary.
Oh, what's that?
The 50th anniversary, June 1st, 1967. Can you guess? The release of, and I remember people talking about this in colleges all over the country. They'd blare it out the windows. Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band.
Wow.
Many consider the greatest Beatles album, maybe the greatest album of all time. And, you know, the reason I mention that is yesterday I got a special package. They have re-released. It's a 6-disc set, DVD, Blu-ray, but then 4 audio CDs. One is a new. Apparently, when Sgt. Pepper was originally made, they mixed it mono, and a lot of Beatles fanatics say, "Oh, you got to listen to the mono because
listen to the mono."
The stereo mix was so execrable that it was just quickly done. The Beatles weren't there. Somebody just threw it together, and they panned things left and right, and they left it at that.
Terrible.
So they apparently remixed it. So they have on this. You have 2 CDs. One with this, a new stereo remix. The other with the original mono mix. But then the thing I got it for, 2 more CDs of alternate takes and studio chatter that has never been released.
Wow.
And
that is so cool. I
very
gotta
excited.
Get that.
Yeah, it's $100-some at Amazon. But I'm a Beatles fan, and you know how many times I bought the same music over and over. And you know,
what's that joke? A new format comes out, and I got to buy the White Album again.
Yeah, got to buy it all. And then every time they remix it, there was a 2009 remix, 24-bit remix, which I bought.
Yeah,
that came on a little metal Apple with a USB memory stick in it. You pulled on you pulled on the stem, and the memory stick would come out.
Oh, that's pretty clever.
Recorded in FLAC. You know, lossless audio. So I've just ripped all 4 of those CDs, so I have them on my devices.
I really want to hear that. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, I used Apple lossless because I want to preserve it. Yeah,
how appropriate too.
Yeah, isn't that
Apple
funny?
lossless for an Apple record.
Yeah, remember that Apple Corps, the Beatles music company, sued Apple.
Yeah, I remember that.
And Apple said, "Well, don't worry, we'll never do music." And then, of course, Apple did music. They released iTunes and they had to sue them again. But we don't know.
Yeah.
$117. But let me tell you, if you're a Beatles fan, that I bet you could have bought all the Beatles albums at the time for $117. But no.
Easy.
Yeah. Easy. Scott Wilkinson, tune in to Home Theater Geeks podcast for the Star Wars anniversary episode, twit.tv/HTG for Home Theater Geeks. Scott's also at the AVS Forum, avsforum.com, and joins us each and every week right here. Thank you, Scotty.
My pleasure.
Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Yeah, I have to see how they digitize it. I wonder if they use that technique that your buddy talked about, where they use the carrier tone to compensate for flutter and wow in the tapes.
Oh yeah,
remember that? I can't remember the name of that, but
I can't either. Now that you're talking about it, I'll have to go look that up.
Huh?
Roger Waters' S&M tour began last night.
Okay, hold on a sec. Let me give Scott the con, and I'll let you take over.
Thank you.
This is how many times Jammer B has purchased Dark Side of the Moon. Well, they're all different. They're all different. They're all the 20th anniversary, the original masters. Which one sounds the best?
The one I like is this one.
Okay. Is that Deutsche Grammophon?
I like the SACD, the 5.1.
Yeah,
mix.
that's what I would get. Although, can I play it back? I wonder.
You need an SACD player.
Current Blu-ray players won't do it, huh?
Most of them won't. Some of them will. Well,
there used to
be.
The
Oppo will. The Oppo Blu-ray player will.
All right.
And the Oppo Ultra HD Blu-ray player will as well.
Okay.
And I think the Sony's might as well, because SACD was a Sony format.
Right. If anybody should keep it alive.
If anybody should keep it alive, it's there. Yeah.
All right, my friend, I'm giving you the con. I will get your monitor,
give me my time.
Time up there in a sec here. I just got to press these little buttons. Press these buttons here. Just do this here.
So, yeah, that was tremendous fun talking with Mike Minkler on the show. He said things like it was the first use of front to back and back to front panning.
Wow.
Before that, it was only side to side panning, and they had to do it kind of in a kludgy manual kind of way. But that was super important for that opening scene, for example, where the spaceship flies overhead. You needed back to front panning, and he said that was the first time they did that. So yeah, it really was wonderful, loquacious, for him to do that interview at 5 in the morning. Jeez Louise. Thank you, Emily the Strange. Yeah, it was well worth it. It was a great. Wow, Dr. Mom remembers booing starting when you first saw Darth Vader's boots walk in. Really? Why were you booing? Oh, because Darth Vader's the bad guy, of course. Silly me. Yes, exactly. Dr. Morbius is right. Episode 4, A New Hope, was added when Empire Strikes Back went into production. Right. Exactly. Web0023, I got my degree in physics from UC Santa Cruz, which is why I was living in Santa Cruz at the time of Star Wars. I got my degree in 1975, but I hung around Santa Cruz for 3 more years because I couldn't bear to leave. It was just so beautiful. And I had so many good friends, and I was playing such great music that I hung around for 3 years before I came back to LA to study music at Cal State Northridge. But I stayed up there for 3 years, and I also went to the community college there to study music, Cabrillo College. It was just a wonderful time in my life. I really enjoyed it quite a bit. Beatmaster, is that a Class AAA product then? I don't know exactly what you mean. It's been a little while here. Let's see. Marsworm, sent me a link to B&O worked with HP to make a PC and a speaker design. See, they do some really interesting things. And this music-infused beer is really interesting. I don't know if it really makes any difference or not, but...
See, I believe, now, you check me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's the remix the Beatles that was done for Love by George Martin, the Beatles producer, for the Las Vegas Cirque du Soleil show. Am I right? Did I get that right, Michael? He says it doesn't say. And I could just be making it all up. Leo Laporte, the tech guy, 8888 Ask Leo, the phone number. We were talking before the break to Eric in New Jersey, and I apologize for putting you on hold, but, you know, the schedule being what it is, we got to keep to it. But it's such an important topic. I'm glad you could hold on because I do want to talk about this.
My pleasure.
So second factor authentication is something I encourage everybody to turn on if you have it, and most places have it now. The idea being... the whole issue with authentication is how do you prove you are you? It's very important, of course, if you're banking, but if you're using iCloud, all your stuff's on iCloud, just ask Scarlett Johansson. Really important that you keep control of that stuff.
Sure.
So second factor means there's 3 possible factors. Something you know, something that's in your head, something you have, like a dongle, a token, and something you are, like biometrics, iris, fingerprint. And combining 2 or 3 of those makes it really an order of magnitude more difficult to crack your account. A hacker can maybe brute force your password, but it does him no good if he doesn't know your, he doesn't have your eyes or your fingerprint. So the way Apple does 2-factor, they have a second factor which requires that you have another Apple device, an iPhone or an iPad or a Mac. You log in on one device, and then the other device will send you a 4 or sometimes a 6-digit code. Sometimes banks do it with text messaging. That's actually not a good idea. That's lately been discouraged because it's easy to spoof cell phones or to hack them. You may also have a program on your computer or your phone, an authenticator program. Google makes one, Microsoft makes one, a lot of companies make them. I use one called Authy, A-U-T-H-Y, and that does a time-based authentication, which is also a 6-digit code that you would only know if you had, this second device, this thing you have. So Apple's going to require, they've had 2-factor for a while now. I can't remember if it started with Sierra or El Capitan for iCloud, and I do tell everybody to turn on, even though it's a pain in the butt. And Apple, more than most, makes it a pain in the butt. They often ask you for re-authentication, even if you're using a fingerprint. Even if you've used the same computer for years, they always are asking for re-authentication. So It's a little more of a burden than it is, say, on Twitter or Facebook or Google.
Can I ask a follow-up, Leo?
Yes. Well, let me just finish that. They have said that on June 15th, if you don't have two-factor and you're using non-Apple applications, and there are a lot of them with iCloud, you will have to turn on two-factor. And because those applications, as they're currently written, don't understand two-factor, you will have to log into your Apple account, verify with two-factor, and then generate a specific, what they call an application-specific password that you use only with that application. So then you log in with that application with your regular iCloud address and this special one-time password, and that gets around the problem that these apps don't understand two-factor, but still gives you an added measure of protection. So that's the whole story.
Yeah, this comes up because I have a well-known, respected calendar program, that sort of effectively sucks information off of the iCloud.
Right.
And, it just seems, frankly, like a lot of trouble to go through just for a calendar program. And what kind of worries me a little bit, and, maybe I'm being a little jittery, is what happens if I don't have a trusted device around
right.
when this happens?
Well, the good news is you won't have to do it more than once. In theory, you just do it the one time you set up that calendar program, and it won't need it again. Your calendar program, as it stands, doesn't ask for your password every time, does it?
Absolutely not. No.
Yeah, so it won't in the future either. Really, the calendar program is unchanged.
Right.
What's happened? The way the calendar program works is it logs you into your iCloud, but iCloud's going to say, well, wait a minute. You are not an Apple program, so I'm not going to let you log in with Eric's email and password because you don't do second-factor authentication. So you are going to have a special one, password for you that Eric's going to get. And then, but as far as the calendar program is concerned, it doesn't know the difference. It just logs you in and stays logged in.
But I gotta leave two-factor on indefinitely forever, just in order to...
Probably not. If that calendar program doesn't ask you to re-authenticate periodically, some do. But if that one just, once you logged in for years it goes, you probably won't have to do anything. I don't know if you'll... That's an interesting question. If turning off two-factor will break it, it might, in which case, yes, you have to leave it on.
I know you got to go, but just to say one more thing quick. I mean, it seems to me like a lot of third-party apps are going to run into this problem, and there's going to be some ticked-off people.
Well, it's happened. For instance, I use third-party apps with Facebook, Twitter, and Google, and I've been doing, my email. I have to do application-specific passwords. This is a standard industry practice. You're right. I guess people will be ticked off because they have to turn on two-factor, but really, I mean, I understand that it's slightly less convenient, or maybe even significantly less convenient, but it is such an improvement in security. I strongly encourage people to use it everywhere you can.
Thanks a lot.
You're welcome. Yeah, you're right. I mean, people are going to be pissed off because it's another step. Security, this is the problem with security. It's always a balance between convenience and security. More security, less convenience. More convenience, less security. I mean, the most convenient thing would be, hey, I'm Eric. Let me use my iCloud. I don't need a password. That would be very convenient. It would recognize your computer maybe once you'd logged in, and that would be that. But it would also mean that bad guys could probably easily get into your account. And we're seeing this happen. Apple had a big problem. Remember, a lot of celebrities' iCloud accounts were hacked not so long ago, a couple of years ago. So everybody does this now. And you might say, well, I don't need to protect my Twitter account. And you're right. You don't have to turn on two-factor most of the time. Where Apple is going a little farther is by requiring this. And it is going to be a pain because you will be logged out of all of those third-party apps, and there are lots of them that use iCloud for, for a document backup. I use an editor called BBEdit, for instance, that will save my documents on the cloud. All of a sudden, that'll stop working, and I will have to re-log in to iCloud, and the process will involve going to iCloud.com, logging in, doing the second factor. If it's not on, that's even worse. In fact, when I tried to turn on two-factor authentication few months ago. When they started offering it, I turned it on because I wanted to use my Apple Watch to log into my Mac, and in order to do that, you had to have two-factor. And I can't remember what the deal was. I had to change, I think, my address. At which point Apple said, "Well, fine, but you can't now turn on two-factor for a month." I was like, "What?" 3 days I'd understand because they want to give you, if a hacker's doing this, they want to give you time to notice and fix it. They said a month. So I had to sit and wait for a month. So you might, if you're going to turn on two-factor, if you have third-party apps, you might want to do it now just in case. If you're using iCloud, turn on two-factor authentication in case there is a waiting period, which I found very frustrating. And that would mean then I would no longer be able to use my iCloud backups because of this. Apple errs, I should say, on the side of inconvenience, of security. And I've never had a device that asked me for a password more often, even though it has strong authentication with a fingerprint. My Mac stuff, my Apple, my iOS stuff is always asking me to log in again. It drives me absolutely nuts. The Apple Store, almost always I have to re-log in, even though I've authenticated with fingerprint, I logged in. It drives me nuts. Even to get a free app, it makes me do this. But this is Apple. And I really do want to say that erring on the side of security is not a bad thing, nowadays especially. But you're right. Some people will be miffed and inconvenienced and annoyed because that's security. It's annoying. It's for your own good. That's all I can say. It's all for your own good and for the good of the internet, because if you're insecure, that causes problems for everybody. 8888 Ask Leo, the phone number. Continue to take your calls right after the news at the top of the hour. I am Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Scott Wilkinson. It's all yours, my friend. 517 seconds of goodness.
517 seconds of home theater geekiness. Well, hey, everybody. So glad to see you all. Somebody was asking me about, I forget who it was. It was one of these. Oh, yeah, here it is. iPad 85-964. Asking me if the Denon AV receivers implement Dolby Volume, which is a dynamic volume kind of thing that brings down commercials. It's an attempt to kind of normalize the sound of TV. And I looked it up, and I don't think they do. They use something from a company called Odyssey called Dynamic Volume, which is the same thing. They also use Odyssey for their room compensation, right? So most AV receivers these days have a function where if you enable it, it plays a bunch of test tones on all the speakers, does some EQing and level matching, and tries to compensate for any problems in the room acoustics. Odyssey is a generic one that they license to different companies, and Denon and Marantz use that. Other companies have their own. Yamaha has YAPO, I think it is, or YPAO. Pioneer has MCACC, and there's a lot of them have their own proprietary one. Dr. Mom says Onkyo uses Odyssey also. They used to, absolutely. Only recently they changed over to a proprietary one called ACU EQ. ACCU EQ. But they did used to use Odyssey. That's absolutely true. The 2-bit guy, need a compressor limiter. I wonder if Dolby Volume or Odyssey Dynamic Volume use a compressor. That's a good question. They probably do. I would think undoubtedly, in fact. Why? How else would they do it? That would be the best thing to do. Tinker Toy Tech's holding on to a Sony disc changer just to listen to Dark Side of the Moon. Good for you. Man, Dark Side of the Moon in 5.1 on SACD, awesome. Just awesome. Really, really great. Dr. Mom, does Sonos use Odyssey to tune their speakers? I don't think so. I think, you know what? I don't have any real direct experience with Sonos yet. I'm about to actually set up a system, so I'll have more of a sense of exactly what its capabilities are here shortly. But I would be surprised if they use Odyssey. You know, they're pretty much a closed system. So if they have some sort of room compensation, it's probably proprietary. I'm not sure about that. Don't take my word for that. Let's see. M. Heiss. Oh, yeah, Mike. Hey, how you doing there? Rumor has it that Onkyo didn't want to pay the royalty for Odyssey, and that's why they dropped it. Could very well be. Maybe the reason why Dolby Volume isn't as prevalent as it is, because Dolby asks a licensing fee for everything that they do. And Odyssey does too. I mean, that's how they make a living. That's how their company stays in business. They have to do something to make money. So that's how they do it. But so instead, Onkyo chose to pay to develop their own room correction algorithm. But that was probably a one-time outlay of some capital expenditure to somebody to develop it. And then they can use it ad infinitum. Web 2662, since I'm always recommending Vizio, have you ever disclosed your connection with them in order to meet the FTC rules? I have no connection with Vizio whatsoever. They don't pay me any money. I have no contract or agreement with them whatsoever. I recommend them because I believe they make a good product. And that's why I recommend them. Benosi, what app do I use for computer to play SACD? That's a good question. Mike Heiss in the chat room. Do you know of any way to play SACD from a computer? I don't think so. No, I don't know of any. Let's put it that way. You need a decoding chip. And Mike Heiss was just telling us in the chat room that these days you have to have a DVD decoding chip, which most computer optical disk drives probably have, so it's probably possible. But whether or not you can actually do it or not, whether it's been implemented anywhere, I don't actually know. Oh, Mike Heiss, here we go. All three of the DSP chip makers have their own Room EQ software that the manufacturer can adapt and package into their units. Oh, I didn't realize that. Those DSP chip makers being Analog Devices, TI, and Cirrus Logic. Have I got those three right, Mike? I think those are the three. I didn't realize they all had their own Room EQ software. That's interesting. Mike says, I don't think so, probably regarding SACD playback from a computer. You need a device that'll play it back, and that's the Oppo Blu-ray players and now UHD Blu-ray players. Sony Blu-ray players, probably. I'd have to go do some research to verify that, but I imagine that's probably true. I don't know who else. I don't know who else. Let's see here. Oh, no. P4 Phantom. My Pioneer still doesn't work. We're $700 spent, Chumley. Sorry about that. Oh, yeah. Hamby says SACD might have had hackability concerns for playing on a computer. That is pretty high-resolution audio, that's for sure. Although you have to have, on an SACD, they use a digital audio format called DSD, Direct Stream Digital, which is not the same as CDs or high-res audio. The SACD is considered high-res audio, but for the most part, high-res audio refers to what's called PCM, which on a CD is 16-bit words, 44.1 kilohertz sampling rate. Don't worry if you don't understand that. It just means it can capture all audible sounds. Some people say not very well. Other people say fine. It was originally marketed as perfect sound forever. But high-res audio uses 24-bit words typically, a 96 kilohertz sampling rate typically. And so that's PCM. Then there's DSD, which is what SACDs use. And you need, a decoder in order to play it. So hackability, I wonder if that's really much of an issue with SACD because it's not simple data to work with. In fact, when they record to DSD and then they have to do a bunch of editing, often they convert it to PCM to do the editing and mixing and DSP and whatever, and then convert it back to DSD. So the value, the supposed value of DSD may be lost in that process. UJ says, I believe you could play SACD discs on the older generation Sony PlayStations. That may be true. And if that's true, why not the new ones? I don't know the answer to that. I hope that you should be able to. I mean, it's still Sony. They should just be able to bring that in, bring that across from the older ones to the newer ones.
Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. Time to talk, well, tech, computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography, smartphones, smartwatches, you know, all that technical stuff, virtual reality, augmented reality. My phone number, 888-827-5536, 8888 Ask Leo, anywhere from the U.S. or Canada. Outside that area, if you have Skype out, the ability to call phones from Skype, you can just do that. And because it's a toll-free number, it shouldn't cost you anything. Of course, you have to have Skype out, which does cost you something. Somebody pointed that out. Well, it's going to cost me. Well, yes, you have to have that feature, which Skype does charge for. Let's go to Hesperia, California. Rita is on the line. Hi, Rita.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you. I have a question about, I purchased Photoshop last year, and it came with the cloud and the Lightroom.
Yeah.
And it's just now expired, and I don't think it's right that I have to pay to have it again. Is there a photo program similar to this that I can buy outright?
Yes. In fact, Adobe sells one called Photoshop Elements, which is almost everything that Photoshop does, except for some higher-end, you know, things like magazine people would need. And it has a easier-to-use user interface. It's about $80.
Okay.
So that's probably... when you bought Photoshop, you bought it for a year, and now it's not working anymore?
Correct. It stopped today.
That's interesting. They,
yeah.
Well, the way they sell it and the way I use it is with a Creative Cloud subscription. I have the photographer's subscription, $10 a month. You get Photoshop and Lightroom. And I think that's a very good deal. But I don't know how you bought it for 1 year only, unless maybe you paid for a year ahead of time.
No, I bought it. It was like $89, and it was for a year.
Yeah, okay, that's what you did. So you bought a year Creative Cloud subscription, and because you bought a year instead of 120, it was 90. That's about right. So you could continue to pay $10 a month. That's how Adobe wants you to do it. They did sell Adobe Photoshop outright. They may even still do that, but it was $600.
Eeks.
Yeah, so nobody... So people, I mean, Photoshop, and that didn't include Lightroom. Lightroom was $200. So that's because people who use it tend to use it for work professionally, and they're willing to pay that kind of money for high-end software like that.
Correct, yeah.
So you have the option of renewing your cloud subscription for $10 a month and getting both Photoshop and Lightroom. That's what you had. Okay. It's just that you only paid a year ahead of time.
Yeah, the guy didn't say I needed to pay for the cloud.
Well, that's what you were doing, though.
Yeah. Oh, I see. Okay.
And if really, for most people, the $80, I think it's around $80 Photoshop Elements is all you need. What do you use it for?
Well, I was using it for pictures. I just did some wedding pictures for my niece. And some of the stuff in the background I needed to delete. And with the lasso...
yeah, so then Photoshop Elements does that and, in fact, makes it very easy to do.
Okay.
There are, free programs that do a lot of the kinds of things people do with photo editing. Even Google, if you put your photos on Google Photos, I was surprised to see they've really enhanced the editing tool over time, and it's now pretty complete. But that's a very specific Photoshop technique to remove backgrounds. And, I'm sure there are other programs that will do many of the things. There's a free one for, are you Windows or Mac?
I'm Windows 10.
Yeah. So Windows 10, when you get the Creators Update, will have some new painting stuff capabilities, may even have that. There is a Photoshop app in the Windows 10 store that may do that. I haven't tried it yet. And that's probably simple. But the good background removal stuff is fancy. More than just lassoing, but really being, really smart about the foreground and the background. That's pretty sophisticated. And for that, I think Photoshop Elements would be a good choice for you.
Okay, I'll give that a try.
Okay, good.
I have one more question.
Certainly.
Yesterday, I was down. I bought some music on iTunes. I went to put it on the CD, no problem. Went to play it.
Yeah.
And at the beginning of each CD, it skips. Yeah. And I've already burned it, so it's like, oh.
Well, and I take it the music plays fine when you just listen in iTunes, right?
Yes.
The downloaded music. Yeah, it sounds like either you had bad blanks or your CD burner is struggling, or it could have just been a bad burn. Although the fact that you had two of them go bad is a little concerning. Well, try again. Try to burn it again, I guess.
Yeah, I ran out of CDs. I have to go buy some more.
Yeah, though they don't last forever. Were they pretty old?
No.
Yeah, it might just be that they had worn out.
Yeah, let's see. Oh, it was a Maxell CD.
That's fine. Those blanks are fine. Truth is, nowadays the blanks don't really matter anymore. I think they're all pretty much the same.
Okay.
So anything you could find at Best Buy or wherever you get your geek supplies would be just fine. Don't get too many of them. Yeah, and it could be get a few, and if you have the same problem, then it means that you need a new burner. Probably those things also can get out of alignment and cause problems.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Sounds wonderful, and I love listening to your show.
Thank you so much for listening, Rita. I really appreciate it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for your help.
Bad news. This is kind of the future of software, is subscription model. Microsoft's always wanted to do this. I mean, this is because if you think about it, even if the subscription is cheap and $10 a month, $120 a year for Photoshop and Lightroom is inexpensive. Remember, that whole time you get all the updates. If you keep it up, you'll get the brand new version at no expense. It probably is, truthfully, a little cheaper than buying it outright because Photoshop was so expensive. They like it, though, because they get a nice annuity. We don't like it so much because all these little subscriptions add up, don't they? If you look at your credit card bill, you'll see, I mean, I do, a dozen of them. Worse, I see some I've forgotten about. I have to check it periodically. I haven't been using that in years. I've subscribed to services that I never used and paid for a long time. So you got to be kind of on top of it. And I think that's one of the reasons consumers don't like it. But Microsoft now, this is how Office is sold. You can still buy a boxed edition, but it's so prohibitively expensive. Most people opt for the $8 a month home version, or the whatever it is, $15 a month for the business version. And Windows is an interesting story because for a long time they wanted to make Windows. They call this software as a service, SaaS. That it's a service. It's not, you don't buy it outright like you buy a car or a refrigerator. You buy it as a service that you continue to subscribe to. And we've talked for a long time, Microsoft's talked about Windows as a service, WAS. And while they aren't currently charging you a monthly fee for Windows, unless you're a business, I wouldn't be surprised to see that happen. Right now, Windows is effectively free. And it has been. You buy a new computer, Windows costs something, $40, $50, but you don't see that. It's part of a much larger cost. But I wouldn't be surprised to see a subscription model. Every company wants to do that, and many have moved that way, including Adobe. 8888 Ask Leo, that's the phone number. Everything we talk about, by the way, I put on the website. Actually, I don't. James DeRuvo, thank you, James, is working hard to write it all down. Puts it up there at techguylabs.com. There's no charge, no subscription fee. We just want you to have access to it. There's a pretty good search there. We divide the site up into shows. This is episode 1390. And then we divide each show up into hours. And then each hour up into segments, into questions or topics. So you can really drill down, find the thing you want. If you want to leave comments, we welcome that. You never have to yell at the radio. Just put it on the website. techguylabs.com. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. 8888 Ask Leo, the phone number. Let's go to Todd, Detroit, Michigan. Hey, Todd, Leo Laporte here.
Hey, it's wonderful to talk to you, finally.
Thank you for calling in. I appreciate it.
Yeah, great. My wife has a Windows phone. Don't laugh. And
she's one of the few, the proud.
I know. But I'm going to get her an Android phone. And what she wants to do, though, is save all of her data, especially her text messages. Is it easy to download that to my laptop and then put onto an Android?
That is an interesting question. Probably not put it on an Android, but I bet you there are tools for Windows Phone that will let you download the text messages. There certainly are on iOS and Android.
Well, at least if I can get them off the phone, that's the main thing.
Yeah, then you keep them on a computer or somewhere she can read them.
Yeah.
Let me just check and see what I can find. Windows Phone was such a small community, shall we say.
I don't know why she bought it years ago.
There is an app called, I didn't know this. I'm learning something now. There's an app called Transfer My Data in the Windows Phone store. And you can export to an SD card. Does her Windows Phone have an SD card slot?
I'm sure it does.
Most did, although, Microsoft discouraged its use. But when you can get your text messages on there, it will tell you if it can get text messages, and that may be specific to the phone. Then once it's on an SD card, you can actually put it in the SD card in the new Android phone if it has a slot.
If it has a slot. So it's called Transfer My Data at the Windows Store?
Yeah, if you go to the Windows Phone store, on her phone, she has a store.
Yeah.
And look for Transfer My Data. There are other programs. There's apparently an SMS backup. I didn't realize this. There's another one. Let's see, an app called Import SMS from Windows Phone. I think you'll need that on your Android device, actually. I apologize. That's on the Google Play Store. That will import the SMS messages from that SD card. So, yeah, you can do it. Don't do the PC Windows Store. Drew is reminding me in our chat room. It's the Windows App Store on your phone.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, yeah, from the phone.
Yeah.
And
I bet if you can't find that one, although that looks like it's still there, because the Windows Store, phone store is kind of collapsing inside, imploding. Just search for copy SMS messages. It sounds like it's the kind of thing that's fairly easy to do. They've made that easy to do.
Good, great. Well, thank you for your time, sir.
My pleasure. Yeah. Which phone are you getting your wife? Do you know?
I'm probably going to get her the Galaxy S10.
Oh, S8.
S8, I'm sorry, S8.
There'll be a 10 in a couple of years, but unless you're going to keep her suffering for 2 more years, you probably should get the S8. Yeah, she'll love that. That is a huge improvement.
Yes, I'm going to get one also. So
good.
Same phone system.
Twinsies. Good.
Great.
Enjoy.
I love the show. Thank you.
You too. Thank you. Steve's in Mission Viejo, California. Hello, Steve.
Hello, Leo. Thanks for taking my call.
Thanks for calling.
I've got an issue. I reinstalled Windows 10 on my sister-in-law's computer, and now I'm using Windows 10 Live for email, and it will not sync. I can send an email from the app, but I don't see any emails in the mailbox. But if I go
So who is it syncing to? Where is the
Cox.
It's Cox. And does Cox do its own thing, or do they use some other service like Yahoo?
They do their own.
They do their own. So it's got to be a settings issue.
Right, and I can't figure out what it is.
So you've gone to the Cox page and you've looked at it. There'll be a couple of things you'll need. You'll need, most importantly, the outbound mail server. Now, I recommend, if Cox offers it, an IMAP server. That's a more modern way. The old way we used to do it, POP mail, Post Office Protocol, POP3, that was the one where you would go, you'd get the mail, you'd download it, and then delete it off the server. And ISPs like that because you didn't use up disk space. But nowadays, because we all have more than one device, we want to use IMAP. IMAP, the server keeps all the mail, and you have a representation of it on your desktop. That way you can still use Cox's web interface. You can use your phone. You can use a computer at work, and the mail will be the same across the board. That's a better way to do it. So you've got to get the IMAP setting. Make sure the port is correct. Sometimes they use non-standard ports.
And that could be the issue. Where in Windows Mail do I find the port settings?
It should be in the, let me think, I'm trying to remember. I just set up Windows Mail the other day. It should be in advanced settings or so the idea of Windows Live Mail is it self sets up, right? You just give it the login and it goes out and it asks Cox and Cox tells them.
Right.
But it's not working apparently.
Right. I created an email and sent it to my personal Gmail, and I received it, so I know it's connected, at least on the outbound side. But when it won't. Hold
on just a sec. We got to take a break. Hold on. Let me puzzle on that one. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. So it should really just self configure. And so another choice, which would be a better choice, is to get, and you could try this, set up a Gmail account for her. Are you still there, Steve? Oh, I'm just pressing the wrong button. Hi, Steve. I'm sorry.
Hello. That's okay. Yeah. I heard you.
Set up a Gmail account. Set up a Gmail account for her. And then use those same settings on Gmail, because Gmail will let you set all the server settings. And it will collect mail from another provider, whether it's POP or IMAP.
So is those retrieve the mail in the Gmail account?
Yeah, then it takes all the mail from the Cox account, puts it in Gmail, and there's a few reasons to do that. One, she can start giving out her Gmail account. I mean, she can continue to use the Cox email. That will continue to work, but she might want to move to Gmail. That way she can own it a little bit more. Plus, Gmail has excellent anti-spam filtering. I do this. So I have a domain register that's my email, but it just bounces everything to Gmail. And then actually I collect it from Gmail onto another server. But Gmail has a better, maybe a more compatible IMAP and POP. You'll notice, in fact, when you set up Windows Live Mail, it knows about Gmail.
Yeah, I know. I got it on I use Gmail on my own because I got tired of having to give out new addresses when I changed ISPs.
Yeah. So that's another way. If you can't figure out where to change it in Live Mail, and it's not auto-configuring, which it sounds like it's not, then try it with Gmail. Set up a Gmail account for her. She doesn't ever even need to know about it if you don't want to. Have that get her Cox mail, and then use Windows Live Mail to contact Gmail.
Okay.
And that'll have a big advantage, because then it will get rid of more spam. Gmail does a great job of taking out spam, much better than Cox does.
Now, she has an iPad that's synced up and a phone that's synced up.
And it's working.
Account.
And it's working.
And they're working. They're working fine.
Jeez.
Still there, Leo? Okay.
Yeah, so it's it's obviously a server setting. Look around. I don't have... My computer died, so I can't look and see where it is. Live Mail somewhere has to have a advanced settings panel where you can...
Yeah, it's got an advanced setting, but I couldn't find ports.
It doesn't mention the port.
No. It would
another thing that for sure Cox will require is that she logs into her Cox account. So make sure you've got that login and password in Mail, because that will be for sure required.
Right, yeah. I was able to do that. And so I had it all going, and no email was showing up in Live Mail. And so I said, let me just test it and send an email. And I sent it to my personal Gmail, and it worked.
So that means you've got the outbound mail, the SMTP settings correct. And it auto-configured, right?
Yeah.
I'm betting there's something weird Cox is doing.
That's what I was saying, but I couldn't find ports to verify the inbound and outbound ports were correct.
Well, if it auto-configured SMTP, then it probably is auto-configuring the port. And it's the same login for SMTP as it is for IMAP. You could try POP just to see if it works.
Yeah, okay.
That's interesting. Usually it's the other way around. Outbound mail doesn't work, but inbound does. So
this just won't download anything, and that's what's got me stumped.
That's odd. It's got me stumped, too. trying to think what else. You know, I mean, another way to diagnose it would be to set up a Gmail account and then use the pop mail settings or the IMAP settings in Gmail to gather the mail from Cox, just to see if it works.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I'll have to try that.
Yeah. It's a little extra trouble.
Yeah,
the advantage, I'm going to give you an advantage to this extra work is you'll have better spam filtering.
Yeah, I know. I've been using Gmail for myself for I don't know how long.
And if she decides to change internet service providers, she won't have to worry about it. She can just use her Gmail account.
Exactly. That's why I went to Gmail.
Yeah, exactly.
When I changed the last time. It's like, hell with it. Now I don't have to change the address anymore.
Got to run. Thank you, Steve.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
He's been everywhere, man. In fact, he's not home, man. He's traveling somewhere, man. Johnny Jet, he's our traveling guy. He helps us travel better with technology. Great travel writer at his website, johnnyjet.com, and, of course, on Instagram and Twitter. And, Johnny, I think, let me guess, are you still in Canada?
I am not in Canada.
Wait, it looks like you might be in Connecticut then.
You got it.
All right, at the family manse.
I'm at my sister's.
Oh, nice.
Just arrived so she can meet the baby.
Oh, is this the first time she's seen the baby?
First time she met the baby. She got sick for his christening, so she didn't come out. Or baptism.
Well, how nice.
So anyway, it's exciting to be here.
She's having fun being an auntie.
Oh, yeah. We spent 3 nights in New York City this last couple days.
Oh, fun.
But I actually got a couple tips. One I learned just an hour ago or 2 hours ago. I rented a car from Avis, and I made a big mistake. I did not ask for a toll tag.
Oh, man.
And by the time I'm driving down, I'm a quarter way there, I realized I don't have a toll tag.
What did you do?
So I called them up. They said, well, this car actually is supposed to have one, but it's not there. So you don't have one and you can't turn around. We have no more cars. So I just had to pay cash. But the problem was, I'm going on a road trip and I'm going to be sitting in these long lines.
Oh, those tolls.
Always ask for a toll tag if you're renting a car.
Yes.
And also, I just went through the RFK bridge. I went over it twice because I made the wrong turn.
Oh.
Waze and Apple Maps both said the wrong directions.
What?
And I ended up spending an hour in traffic that I didn't have to. So I was really frustrated. New York City has the worst signs to get out of the city.
I know. That's because
they're the worst.
They don't really want you to visit.
They don't. And they wouldn't let me slide on the second toll. I go, look, I just went over $8.50 each.
No, what are you talking about? Give me the money.
The guy's like, you need to map out your directions before you go. So that's my other tip.
Yes. We do that. Yesterday we went on a retreat for our son's 8th grade, graduation. And it was it was out of the cell signal. So we printed out we went to Google Maps before we left and printed out a map. Because we were afraid, hey, we're going into the wilderness, and I can't drive without GPS anymore. I can't read signs. I don't know how they work.
Well, I mean, everyone uses GPS, but the problem was they said take 287, and the sign said 278. So someone's dyslexic because it was 278. So
the New Yorkers do that on purpose. There's a town here in Northern California called Bolinas that they take down the signs because they don't want anybody coming. And I really think modern cities really don't want you to drive in. They really don't.
Well, they made $8.50 extra because I went over this toll twice.
Hey, that's
And the
good.
guy goes, it happens all the time. They wouldn't refund it.
Happens all the time. Of course not.
Yeah.
What is because you're gonna get these people who are gonna say, "Hey, I was just here. Don't you remember me?" No, you can't. You can't do that.
All right. Well, I got an app and a website for you, and also got another tip. I don't know if you heard that. The TSA is now testing new security procedures at 10 airports in the U.S.
You got to take everything out.
Yes. So food. And those airports are Boise, Boston, Colorado Springs, Detroit, Fort Lauderdale, Las Vegas, L.A., San Juan, and Lubbock, Texas. I mean,
Lubbock, Texas.
That one.
Yeah.
I don't know why they have that in there, but that's
they don't have Miami. I'm going into Miami on a week from Monday, so they don't have Miami.
Yeah, Miami's down. Fort Lauderdale is though.
Yeah.
So be aware of that. Make sure you show up to the airport extra early at those places because it could be
everything's coming out.
Yeah, everything's coming out.
Now, let me ask this: have they yet implemented that laptop ban they were talking about?
No, they did not. And there's still talks that it might. And I've also heard that they're not going to do it.
I'm praying
that they're not going to do it.
They better not.
But
I got I'm all loaded up for our trip because I got 2 flights. I downloaded about 5 movies and from Netflix. I got my magazines. I got everything on my laptop, not my iPad.
Yeah, well, you're going to South America.
I got a long way to go. Yeah.
They were talking about Europe. So, but if it does happen to Europe, I would think that would extend to everywhere.
I saw a graph the other day that says that tourist travel to the United States from overseas has dropped about, what is it?
20%.
Yeah.
I heard 20.
20. Huge. Huge. That is a big loss to a lot of businesses.
Big time. I mean, I know lots of people who don't. I was just in Canada for 2 weeks, and a lot of them don't want to come to America, which is a shame. But that's a whole nother story. But speaking of road trips, that was my sister that just walked by.
Hi, sis.
Speaking of road trips.
I call her Auntie Jet.
Auntie Jet.
Auntie Jet.
So speaking of road trips, I was at a conference in Alabama recently, and I met someone who has a company an app called Rodie, R-O-D-I-E.
R-O-D-I-E. Okay.
Sorry,
that's a weird...
R-O-A.
Okay, good. That makes more sense. R-O-A-D-I-E. All right.
.com.
Okay.
So if you're traveling and you're buying something in the U.S. and you don't want to spend like a crazy amount of money at FedEx or UPS, check these guys out. You can create a gig, they call it, which is a delivery or a shipment. And what they basically do is they find either truckers or people driving across country or driving anywhere, even to the next town over, that will put it in their car if they have space, and they'll make money, and it'll cost you like a fraction of the price of a normal shipment, and it's insured. And I asked, what about drugs? And they said, they get that all the time. It's an open box policy, so everything has to be inspected before it goes into the car. That
seems fair. ROADIE.com. And how is it a lot less expensive?
Supposedly it's a third less. So
wow. I like that idea because I like my mom does this when she comes out to visit. She ships most of her luggage out, so she doesn't have to schlep it around.
Yeah, I don't know about the luggage part because that's going to take a while.
Well, it does take a while, so she plans ahead.
I mean, I do. I've shipped my luggage before at FedEx. You just go up to FedEx Ground and you can just bring your bag. You don't need to put it in a box.
Yeah.
But make sure it's ground. And again, if you're going to a hotel, you got to call the hotel in advance because some hotels charge a receiving fee.
Oh, man.
So it actually wipes it out with any savings because what? The real thing is you're not saving that much money from the airlines charging you back.
I got to FedEx my camera gear to Machu Picchu because I found out that internal flights in Peru, you can only bring 8 kilograms, 17 pounds. Well, that's nothing.
Do not put it in your checked bags because you will.
Well, that's the thing. Where am I going to do? So I don't know what to do now because if I bring my camera and lenses, that alone is more than 8 kilograms. So
right.
I suddenly have a challenge. I have a packing challenge. I bought some. I told you I bought that lightweight travel clothing though.
Yes, the ex officio.
Yeah, it looked like I'm wearing like I'm a belly dancer. It's very sheer.
Well, I need to see some photos, but I mean that's what you get. Listen, it doesn't really matter what you look like as long as
cool
you're protected.
And it's light. Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
And that's key when you're going on these trips, especially and in safaris as well. And again, you said it was light clothing, so that's the way to go.
Yeah, because no mosquito, and it's treated with DEET, permethrin, whatever it's called, that permethrin that keeps the bugs away. Right. They say it'll last 70 washings, but that's okay because I don't plan to wash my clothes.
Not that you have to worry about Zika, but people don't realize Zika is still a problem.
Yeah, you don't want to get. So, you know what? No, there's no such thing as a good mosquito bite.
I'm with you on that.
You don't know what they're carrying, so just don't get bit. And I got hats, I got gloves,
But if you're pregnant or thinking about getting pregnant, do not go to these countries where you're at high risk.
I know.
So.
And I understand British Airways computers are down.
Yes, I was just meeting with British Airways the other day.
Yikes.
Yeah, I just saw that. So I haven't seen the news in the last 4 hours because I've been on the car. But, make sure you're checking all your flights before you go to the airport because I know a lot are canceled and it's going to be a zoo for the next couple of days, I imagine.
JohnnyJet.com. Go there right now. Sign up for his travel newsletter. Do your travel searches there. Follow him on Twitter. Follow him on Instagram. And if you get a chance to go to a travel show where he's speaking, you must watch our great Johnny Jet. Hey, thank you, John.
Hey, thank you.
Leo Laporte, the tech Guy. And Jose is on the line from Modesto, California. Whoa. Hello, Jose. Whoa. What's going on there? Oh, I hear myself coming back at me. Can you... What is that? Is that me or is that you?
I think it's me.
Okay, turn the radio... Yeah. I always wanted to say this. Turn your radio down! Or whatever it is you're listening to. There we go. How you doing?
Good, good.
What can I do for you?
Well, first of all, I just wanted to get your input, your view regarding Windows 10 Creators Update.
Yes.
And then I have like a two-part question. Is it stable enough, mature to get it?
Yep.
And so the second part is upgrade or clean install.
Okay. So I just got it on my new laptop. It took a couple of days. There are some laptops like my HP Spectre who have still not gotten it. What Microsoft's doing, in fact, Microsoft said last week, only 18% of all eligible computers are running the Creators Update, even though technically it's been out for a month. So what's the deal? Well, they learned their lesson from last year. The anniversary update caused some real problems for people. It broke a lot of webcams. It had a hard crash if you plugged in a Kindle. There were just some bad bugs in it. So Microsoft this time around with this update, and it is a big update, decided to push it out very slowly and not offer it to you unless your computer was compatible. So my first advice is don't worry about it. Don't think about it until you get the notice, hey, we've got a new update for you. At that point, it's completely safe to do. Unlike last year, I have heard of 0 problems with the Creators Update. And I've had no problems myself. I even forced it on a number of computers. I don't recommend you do this, but I was in a big hurry, So I had 2 Microsoft computers, a Surface Studio and a Surface Book, and I thought, well, it's got to work with the Microsoft computers. So there is a way in the update you can, at the bottom, it says, you want to get the latest one now? And you can force it. But I don't recommend that because there's a reason. If you're not offered it yet, there's a reason why. Let Microsoft check your compatibility. With HP, apparently, there's some driver issues. They're waiting. You don't want any issues. But if you wait and it offers it to you, I think it's good. As for a clean install, I don't think you need to. I wouldn't worry about it. This is going to be the future. Microsoft has said this. Windows 10, they say, is the last version of Windows. That's it. Boom. Done. We're not, they're not going to have a Windows 11, at least not in the foreseeable future, and they're not going to, I think they will, to be honest, but they say no. And we are going to, so once you get Windows 10 on a machine, that's it. You're done. You won't be paying for any more upgrades. And we will now, in return, you have to take updates. And I don't think that's a bad thing. The critical updates, the security updates, that's good. Everybody should be installing those. That's, if you're an enterprise, a business, you can defer it. End users, home users can defer it for up to a month. But it's important that you do these updates. You hear me say this all the time. That's the #1 thing, to protect yourself against viruses, malware, things like WannaCry. Keep your system up to date. So that's part of the deal. If you upgrade to Windows 10 or you buy a new computer with Windows 10, you must take the security updates, the critical updates. And that will include at some point, probably once or twice a year, it's been once a year so far, a big update. The equivalent of Windows 10.1 or Windows 10.2. That last year was called the anniversary update. This year it's the Creators Update. There may be one in the fall. They're beta testing. It's called Redstone. They may be doing that. Not that it matters. The Creators Update has some new features, but mostly it's stability and performance and that kind of thing. And it's been my experience. I've installed it numerous times. It's technically Windows 10, by the way, Windows 10 1703. The last update, the anniversary update, was Windows 10 1607. And you can actually decipher these because the first 2 digits of the year, 1607 was 2016, 07 the month, July. The Creators Update is 1703, March 2017, although it didn't start coming out until later. But that's the date of the kind of, they've locked it down. It's done. So you can easily check and see which version of Windows you have. If you hit Windows key X and you click on System, you can see if you have 1607. If you have Windows 10, you should have at least 1607 or 1603, I should say. And you're waiting for 1607. Yep. And you're waiting for 1703. That's the Creators Update, 1703. Don't rush it. However, if it's offered to you, take it. As always, you want those updates. They protect you. They protect the internet. And in this case, rock solid. They did a great job of it. In fact, I have to say I've been more and more impressed with Windows 10. Many people say, Leo, how can you recommend Windows 10? Because Microsoft is snooping on you. It's sending data back. You know, that's pretty typical. Operating systems often send diagnostics back. Apple offers you the chance to turn that off. So does Microsoft. I usually leave it on because I want to help them make better operating systems. One of the reasons 1703 is so good is because they know when you crash. They know what happened because that stuff is sent back to the home office. I don't have a problem with that. And I have to say, Windows, and to be honest, part of this is I've been a long time dyed-in-the-wool Macintosh user, and you've heard me recommend it for years. But I feel that Apple's hardware is rapidly becoming out of date. They are focused on the iPhone, and their Macintoshes I'm not impressed with. Their latest Touch Bar is such a bad idea. The fact that Apple doesn't put touch on their laptops is a bad idea. And so I've been looking farther afield. And, you know, when you go to Windows, there are, unlike Apple, you know, there's only one company that makes Macintoshes. That's Apple. There are hundreds, maybe thousands of companies that make Windows 10 PCs. So you can choose from a huge variety. All that competition keeps prices low and quality high. And I just got, in fact, I'm thrilled with it, a Lenovo laptop. Lenovo, the ThinkPads, the high-end Lenovo line has always been prized by businesses and hardcore users. Partly because my friend Cory Doctorow uses it because it's easy to put Linux on it. But he also likes their service, and I actually paid for this Next Business Day service where they come and they replace it, and he says that's good in 160 countries. He's a writer. He can't afford to be without his laptop for more than a day, so anything goes wrong with his laptop, including accidental breakage, he pays for that, and they will replace it. And Lenovo's apparently very good at that. They also make a great keyboard, and I have to say so many modern laptops, including all the new Macintoshes, have terrible keyboards. And I really like a nice keyboard. So I've been very happy with this Lenovo. I got the X1, which is their high-end, Yoga, which is their 2-in-1. You know, they call it the Yoga because it can do the downward dog. It flips all the way over, turns into a tablet, but it's not a detachable screen. I like that better than the Microsoft Surface, which is also a very good Windows PC, the brand new Surface. It has a detachable keyboard. It's a tablet with kind of a funky fabric keyboard. I don't like that. I don't like it. I like a real keyboard. So this Lenovo is just beautiful. Touch screen, comes with a pen. I think that's you know, something I might not use a lot, but boy, is a nice feature if you do use pen for handwriting or illustrating or telestrating. That's what I use it for. Drawing circles and O's, you know, like just like the coach John Madden used to do, right? Pow, zoom. I love touch. People, you know, Apple says, oh, you don't want touch on a computer. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. You want touch, you want mouse, you want pen. You want all the choices. And then you'll use, I find I use what's appropriate. So sometimes I'll scroll with a finger or touch a button because it's faster and easier than mousing it. I also spent a little extra and got an OLED display. It's one of the few laptops now that you can get, besides an LCD display, this new technology. We've seen it in TVs. These OLED displays are gorgeous and good power consumption. So, yeah, it was expensive. It's fancy. I don't believe in cheap laptops, but this is a nice one. And it has, unlike Apple, Type-C ports and real USB ports and real Ethernet ports and real HDMI ports. It has all the ports. Unlike Apple, which is all Type-C. So, yeah, I think I have to change my tune. I think Windows is probably a good choice these days. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the Tech Guy. Hour 3 of the Tech Guy show for today. We talk here about computers and the internet and home theater and digital photography and smartphones and smart watches, augmented reality, all the things that are changing this world around us. Technology, anything with a chip in it. My phone number is 888-827-5536. 8888 Ask Leo. That's the mnemonic for that. Toll free from anywhere in the U.S. or Canada outside that area. Skype out. If you've got Skype out, that'll do it. It's a free call, so it shouldn't cost you any minutes. 8888 Ask Leo. Website, techguylabs.com. Let's continue the conversation in Louisville, Kentucky. Paul is on the line. Hi, Paul.
Yeah, how you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
It's fine. I want to, before I get to my topic, I want to give you kind of a suggestion for a triangulation show.
That's the Big Thinkers interview show I do on Mondays.
Kind of half comical, half serious when I say this.
Okay.
My dream person to be on there would be Richard Stallman.
Oh, I've interviewed Richard. I would love to get Rich. We've tried. He's quite a character. He is the...
He will interrupt you and try to... he'll challenge you and preach to you about how you're not supposed to say Linux. It's the new Linux.
Yeah. When I interviewed him on Tech TV some years ago...
Oh, you did?
Oh, yeah. He said, I will not come on your network unless everybody, not just on the show that I'm going to be on, but everybody on the network that day calls it not Linux, but GNU Linux.
Yeah.
He's the creator of the Free Software Foundation.
Oh, yeah.
And, he is a very ardent advocate for the idea that software should not be owned by a company, but should be open source and free, as in liberated. He doesn't like proprietary software, and I can't say I disagree with him. In fact, I really wonder if we're heading towards a time when software is mostly free and open source as opposed to from a commercial entity, partly because of government interference. The UK is about to pass a law, at least that's in the party platform for the Conservatives, who are expected to win the election. Theresa May, who is the current Prime Minister, will probably be Prime Minister again. When she was Home Secretary, she created something that they call the Snoopers Charter, which is a law, and they want to go even farther to control the Internet, and most importantly, from our point of view, to break encryption. Governments and law enforcement often don't like, at least when they don't dig deep into the subject, the idea that we can communicate, you and I can communicate in a way that they can't listen in. They are so used to being able to wiretap phones and monitor communications that the idea that citizens might be able to talk between each other without government snooping scares the pants off of them. They call it the going dark problem. Now, there was a big study performed by Harvard's Berkman Center about this, in which they said, don't worry, law enforcement, because you have so much more information than you ever had. This isn't going to be an issue. Maybe you won't be able to listen to me text messaging you, Paul, but they be able to know, they know where we are from our phones. They know who we call from our phones. They know who we email from our email. They have more signals and more information about us than they know what to do with now. So going dark is not a problem. And if law enforcement thinks about it for longer than just a few seconds, longer than just the panic that they have about not being able to listen to everything they want to, they'll realize that breaking encryption, which we even have examples of this in our current news, breaking encryption endangers all of us because it gives the bad guys access as well as law enforcement. And we've seen from these NSA exploits that leaked out how bad guys have used them to our disadvantage. So I think that Stallman's argument that people should stop using commercial software, if you're Microsoft or Apple, and the law of the land is that you may not encrypt communications, you can't. You won't be able to do business in that country. They will have no choice. Open source software does not have that same issue because they're not a commercial entity, and they can operate internationally. So I think for that reason alone, Stallman would be a very interesting interview.
Yeah, I would love to see that. I'd like to talk to you about a.
By the way, when we had Stallman on, I convinced him to sing the open source anthem.
Oh, really?
And play the recorder for us, and it was quite a
I'd
show.
like to get
It's on YouTube. Just search for Richard Stallman on Screensavers, and I think you'll find it. Yeah.
I will.
Yeah.
Okay. I often hear you and Steve Gibson talk about the Internet of Things security, and I'm looking at the show notes from, I thought it was you and Steve, but it was one day that Father...
Robert was hosting. Yeah, I was on vacation.
And it was about Steve was talking about an Arlo camera and how someone he sold it, and then they were able to get...
Yeah, it was resold. It was a used camera resold on Amazon, and the passwords hadn't changed, so the previous owner was able to log into the camera for the new owner and see what he was up to.
Well, see, I've got several of those Arlo cameras, and I like them. But the thing that I'm wanting to ask you about is that on a recent Security Now, a few episodes back, Steve was talking about the new the Eero routers have this new Internet Things technology. Do you recall him telling you about that?
I don't, but I'm very familiar with the Eeros. They are a sponsor of some of our shows, but I also use them.
Yeah, well, I was wondering if I got an Eero router, would I be more protected from with my camera?
Yes.
My Arlo camera from the Internet of Things security? Because Steve talks about how not only could they see your camera, but they could what the camera is seeing, but they could hack into your network.
Yeah, let me kind of explain what that's all about. So this whole idea of connecting stuff in your house to the Internet, and I look at my house now on my Eero router. I've got 43 connected devices.
Is that a separate network?
Yeah, no. Well, they're all on the one network, and I'll explain why the separate networks might be a good solution. So all of those devices, thermostats, doorbells, Echoes, stereo equipment, TVs, they all can connect to the Internet. If they should be hacked, and we know this has happened, if they should be hacked, like your camera, not only does that give somebody access to your camera's view, but as you point out, that device is a gateway to your home network. They can use it to get into your home network. And that could be devastating as well. You know, if you're using Wi-Fi, you're using password protection. You're doing everything you can to keep people from your home network. It's not that they're going to borrow your Wi-Fi. It's that they can then attack your machines. Now, your machines are less attackable if they're up to date, right? That's, of course, we always talk about the security precautions you should take. That will help protect you. What also will protect you is do not buy Internet of Things devices that are not updatable and don't get regular updates, because there's no such thing as perfect software. The problem with some of these devices is they have hardwired passwords that can't be changed, or they have security flaws in their software that can't be fixed. But anything like the Nest, like the Eeros, the Ring doorbell, all of these are well-designed devices that are firmware updatable.
What about the Arlo?
I'm not familiar enough with the Arlo to know. Who makes the Arlo?
Netgear.
Yeah, that'll be fine. Well, although Netgear's had problems with their routers, as you know. But I think the burden is now on... What you really don't want to get is a no-name Chinese clone, because they have no incentive to keep it up to date. But if they're a big business, doing business in the United States with a reputation to maintain, it's likely they're going to keep those things patched. I'm not familiar with the Arlo, but that's generally what you want, something that can be updated. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. And we know Netgear is far from perfect. The Netgear routers have had problems, right? And not been patched.
Netgear router, and that's what I'm worried about.
Yeah.
I've updated the Netgear router, but I was wondering, will the Eero... Is that going to
It will help, but it is not going to give you that thing Steve likes to do.
Right, I know.
Which is the 3-router solution. Very few people can do that. The other thing Steve recommends is this Ubiquiti Edge Router X, the $50 router. that will let you create with one router the same setup with VLANs. The idea being that your Arlo or whatever internet, you have a separate network for Internet of Things devices, so that if somebody does get into them, it isn't a passage into your home network. It's just a passage into their subnet, into their VLAN. And, you know, maybe somebody could then get to your thermostat, but they couldn't get to your computers. So that's
I called Ubiquity about that, and I said, well, the problem that I have is things that don't have an interface. Like if I have a wired, not a wired, but for the router.
You don't have a way of saying which network it's on.
Well, what I'm saying is, like, if I have the power line adapter, you have to press.
Yeah.
There's no way to do that with the Ubiquity.
The Ubiquity is wired. So what you use is a Wi-Fi router on one of the ports, and then you tell the Edge Router X to make that port its own VLAN, separate from your home network, which is on another port. That one has 4 or 5 ports.
Yeah.
So you have each port on a separate VLAN that can't communicate with the other VLANs. That isolates them.
Do you think the Eero router would be a lot more secure now than my current Netgear router?
Yeah, probably, because they really work hard to. I get updates on Eero every few weeks. They're constantly updating.
One quick question before I go. You've often said that you think a Chromebook is great for security.
Yep.
I'm thinking about getting the Chromebook Plus.
Yeah, I love it. I have it.
I want to ask you the comparison. I'm currently using the Linux Debian, and I was wondering, is that Linux Debian for security purposes, banking, as safe as using a Chromebook?
It is if you know what you're doing. It's not, you know, the nice thing about the Chromebook is they've really locked it down. Yeah. You can make Debian as secure, but you really go online. There are pages that say how to lock down a Debian install and do all those things. And yeah, you can make Debian very secure. It has also the advantage of being a smaller attack surface. Remember, the bad guys are going to attack operating systems that have a lot of market share, because then it's more profitable for them.
So
if you're a target, if somebody's going after you, Paul, doesn't matter what you do, you're screwed.
Exactly.
But what you want to protect yourself is against generalized attacks, and just using Linux will do that, because all the generalized attacks are against Windows machines.
Do you think the Chromebook Pro is any better than the Plus?
It's an Intel chip instead of an ARM chip. We don't know yet.
Yeah.
In theory, it's somewhat better. More important to me on a Chromebook is RAM. I wish I could get 16 gigs in those. If I could, that'd be the one I'd buy. RAM makes a bigger difference, in my opinion, than ARM versus Intel.
You still like the Plus, though?
I love it. Boy, it's light. It's really nicely done. It's cheap.
How do you like the pen? Does the pen work?
Works great. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a very good choice. Think of that as, that would be a good banking computer, you know. That has things like secure boot. You can't modify the operating system at all. Those are the advantages, I think. Leo Laporte, the tech guy, relaxing on an easy Saturday evening. 8888 Ask Leo. It's like the quiet storm. Joyce in San Clemente, California. Hi, Joyce.
Hi, Leo.
How are you today?
Pardon?
How are you doing?
Very good, very good. I've been listening to you for a long time. I do some artwork while I'm in here.
Nice. What medium do you use?
You mean radio?
No. What kind of art?
Oh, I make cards.
Nice.
Yeah, and it's fun.
You do rubber stamps and cutouts, things like that?
Oh, no. Do everything by hand.
Oh, wonderful.
I don't know if you interested in what I have to say, but my husband and I are elderly, and we love lots of sports on TV, documentaries and so forth.
Yep.
But the background music is just...
I know.
Loud. And do we have any recourse?
Yes, you do.
Okay.
This is a well-known problem, and it's because it's the same reason you and I have to wear hearing aids as we get older. the frequencies of the human voice are harder to hear than the frequencies of the stuff around it. So the voice starts to get harder and harder to hear. It's the same reason, it's just hard to hear. And there's another trick that the psychoacoustic trick the ears do. If there are noises in other frequencies, it makes it harder to hear. So in a quiet room, you hear better than you do in a noisy room.
Right.
And because the ear will, in fact, it's kind of a psychoacoustic trick that's been used to compress audio. That's how MP3s work. If you have common frequencies, the ear can only hear one of the 3 or 4 common frequencies at the same time, so you can eliminate the data from the other ones. But that's a long discussion for another time. So how do we fix this? Well, there are a lot of ways to do it. Some TVs and many audio receivers have a center channel adjustment that you can turn up the voices. You can also buy boxes that'll do that. And ultimately, your best bet is to get a surround sound system that has a speaker just for the center channel. You could have left, right, center. That's all you'd really need, or maybe left, right, center subwoofer. And then what you do is you set the center channel louder than the other speakers. That's where all the voices are. And almost all TV shows now are mixed that way. So,
well, don't they realize that people can't really hear the voices when they have it so loud?
You know what? The world is ageist.
Well, you know what?
Young people can hear the voice.
They're going to get old, too.
I know. Young people can hear the voices. They can read that fine print on the web pages. They can do all that, so they don't think about us.
Even my kids, and they're older, they're up there, and occasionally they'll admit that they didn't hear it very well.
It's harder, and I think that's because a lot of TV shows, and even sports now, are mixed. They're assuming you have a surround sound system. They're mixed for surround sound. What happens on a regular TV without special speakers or even stereo speakers is it all gets jumbled together. When I listen now to a ball game, I've got 3 speakers in front of me, a middle speaker right above the TV, one to the left, one to the right. I've got a subwoofer, and then I have 2 more speakers that are kind of on the left and right side. Those are the surround speakers. If I sit near the surrounds, the announcers' voices don't come through the surrounds, just and beer here, get your beer here. So all of that in a surround system is separated out, and you can turn up the middle, but you wouldn't even need to probably. But the problem is you take that 5-1 mix and you mix that down into 2 speakers or 1 speaker, and it's all a mush.
Yeah.
So the problem isn't that it's not merely that we're getting older, but it's also that stuff is mixed differently, and nowadays they assume you have a surround sound system.
I guess so. Because we were watching a documentary just last night. That's why I said to my husband, I'm calling Leo. It was a wonderful documentary on sports. And the man had an accent. And it was just horrible.
Yeah.
The music was so, and it wasn't an old documentary. I think this is...
No, the newer ones are worse because they're the ones mixed in surround sound.
Oh, and, we can afford to go to the movies, but we can't. Because
you can't hear the movies either?
Movie theater is terrible.
Yeah, it's too loud.
And even also saw a movie where the people had an accent, and we were with my daughter and her husband, and they were just laughing.
Can I tell you what I do? I turn on the subtitles.
Well, that's good for TV. Yeah.
Because if there's a bad accent, a strong accent, I can, and I have to confess, I have done this.
Or shut your eyes.
Yeah,
really
I have. You might try getting headphones. You can get headphones for televisions. There are wireless ones. I got my mom some headphones. They've helped her immensely.
That's true. That's true. Well, we love sports, and we can always watch them without any sound. That's not a problem. Golf and baseball and so forth. But
they need to frankly offer a mono mix and I think in time they will. But right now, I'm not kidding. I think that sports even is mixed. They're expecting you to have a system with multiple speakers.
I guess, yeah. I think you're right.
Because I noticed that my wife is a young whippersnapper. She's only she's like 47, and she'll sit there and say, "I can't hear. What is he saying?" I'll say, honey, you just listen.
I know that.
No, it's because it's
Mom, listen. You're not listening.
No. Partly it's age. I agree, and I'm older than she is. I'm 60. Partly it's age.
We're in our 80s.
Wow, good for you.
Our hearing is really very good, and of course we don't like to tell people that we didn't hear something.
No, I know, I understand.
But anyway, I enjoy you, Leo, and I'm always telling my kids something that you've said, and they'll say, "Well, where'd you hear that, Mom?" And I said, "Well, Leo said."
Aw.
So
thank you, Joyce.
They know.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, all I can offer is sympathy because I agree. I have the same problems often.
I guess we'll just have to get some modern equipment in here.
Yep.
Or read or something.
Get a center channel speaker, and that really will make a difference because that's where all the voice is coming out.
Leo.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Wonderful to talk to you, Joyce. Take care. Have a great day. I do hear this complaint, not just from older people, from younger people as well, and I do think it is an issue with the way stuff is mixed. If you have an AV receiver, I know it's a great expense, but if you have an AV receiver, you can turn off the surround. There's all sorts of things you can do. Partly it's age, partly it's and partly it's just the way they're doing things nowadays, and partly and you can blame the director Robert Altman for this. He's the guy who did MASH, McCabe and Mrs. Miller, great director. But he was before Robert Altman came along in Hollywood. They had a rule: one actor talks at a time. They wanted you to hear the dialogue. Robert Altman said, but that's not how it is in life. So he had his actors mumble. He had them overlap. Watch MASH. Radar's talking the whole time everybody else is talking. He did that because it's more real, but it's also a heck of a lot harder to understand. And I think his rationale was, well, it's not important that you hear everything everybody's saying. I just want to make it realistic. I think Altman was a great influence, actually, on modern directors. And you hear a lot of overlapping dialogue now and mumbling and frankly, just poorly mixed sound. 8888 Ask Leo. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Yeah, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. It's a perfect example. They're all yelling at the same time. I think the rationale is, well, you'll hear a word here and there, and then Veep is another good example. It's just boom, 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 boom. I don't know what it is, Stokes Squirrel. I do think that, remember, that the mixers who are doing the mix down are sitting in these studios with really good C systems and surround, and they're mixing them. And so they're mixing down the center channel because they can hear it just fine, and they want to hear the effects. And, in the old days of music mixing, they would have a cheap pair or sometimes a single cheap speaker. A company called Auratone made these. They were terrible. But they'd have it in the studio, and they'd never send out a mix unless they listened to it on the Auratone and made sure it sounded okay. Because they knew people were going to get in their car and play it on their cheesy AM radio. Mamet. Yeah, David Mamet. Big with the mumbling and the overlapping. I don't know who to blame. Sherlock is difficult. Yeah. And because they're speaking with an accent, I often will turn on that. In fact, I think Sherlock is one of those that I will watch with subtitles. Same problem with the web, right? People are putting little tiny gray print on beige backgrounds. No contrast. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. 8888 Ask Leo, the phone number. John is in Anaheim, California. Hey, John.
Hello, Leo.
How are you?
I'm doing fine. Yourself?
Very well. Thanks for calling.
Yes. My question to you is, I've got a graduation party coming up for my grandkids.
Nice.
And I did a video for them.
Oh, wow.
They're twins, boy and a girl, so I did 2 videos.
How fun.
Put them all together, and I have 4 TVs, and I'd like to stream it. I did the video on an iMac, and I can stream it to my smart TV. I have a Samsung, one of the newer ones, and
Okay.
it automatically, and away it goes.
Nice.
I have another smart Samsung out in the patio, and it runs off of a Wi-Fi connection. There's no hardwire connection to it, and I can't stream to it. It doesn't see it. It sees it, but I can only stream individually. I can do
Yeah,
one.
that would be the hard thing to do, is to stream the same stream from one computer to 4 TVs.
Right.
You'd almost have to set up a broadcast operation
Yeah.
instead of if you use any kind of, Google Cast or DLNA or any of the Miracast, they're all 1-to-1.
Yeah, the DNLA is what I'm using.
Yeah, and that's 1-to-1.
Yeah. I didn't see any easy way.
Well, there is a way to do it. There are companies that make basically broadcast transmitters. Wavecom is the best known, and it's a wireless TV setup, right? Okay. So you have you get a Wavecom transmitter and a Wavecom receiver on the TV. And the thing is, it doesn't care if there's 1 or 20 because it doesn't diminish the power. It's basically you're setting up a little transmitter in the house, a little radio frequency transmitter, and as long as the TVs are close enough, they'll pick it up. So I would send you to Radio Shack, but they're no more. But they used to have them. So Wavecom, they made the little Wavecom Junior, and that I'm pretty sure, I've never tried it, but let me ask, because I bet you there are people listening who do this in churches, right? This is very common in churches. You have a pastor speaking on the podium up there, on the pulpit, and you're recording him, and you're sending it to multiple satellite TVs throughout the building.
Yeah.
Is there a wireless? I know most of them use wired, and that's just like you could either be a little broadcast installation or a little cable company. If it's wired, you're cable. If it's wireless, you're broadcast. And I'm wondering.
Well, cable's kind of tough to get to because it's.
No, yeah, you can't run wires all over the place. Everybody will trip.
Yeah.
So Wi-Fi won't do it, I don't think, because I don't think there's a multicast Wi-Fi solution. I wonder if Plex would do it. Now, the problem with Plex is you'd have to have something that would receive most TVs don't do Plex, but Roku's do, Apple TVs do, that kind of thing. I wonder if. Let me ask the chat room this, because I know we have many Plex users there. If I'm using Plex on my Mac to stream out over Wi-Fi, can I have multiple Plex receivers receive the same signal and play it back? Will that work?
Oh, that would be awesome.
Wouldn't that be interesting? Plex is a great solution. It's a multimedia server.
Yeah, I've used Plex a little bit, but
okay.
not that much.
Okay.
I set it up on the iMac when I got there.
Right. So, well, good. You already have a server. You put that on the iMac. And then you just need some Plex receiver. Roku would do it. Apple TV supports Plex. There's a lot of these TV dongles, Fire TV.
Okay.
So, but what we have to figure out is, so Dean says, I've only used wired in cases like this. I haven't ever seen anybody use Plex to do it.
Yeah.
I would think it could, but something you'd have to look on the Plex site and see if you can handle it.
Okay. Well, worst comes to worst, one of the outside TVs has a DVD player in it.
There you go.
The one inside's fine. The one outside, I can put another DVD player out there and do that.
There you go. Do you have Apple TVs or Rokus or anything like that?
I have a couple of Rokus, yes.
Okay.
I have 2 of those. The one that's way far, my wife calls it the man cave. It's my cigar smoking patio.
Oh, I want that.
I can't get cable to it without reason.
Yeah, so if you can get Wi-Fi out to it, Plex will work.
Yeah, I do Wi-Fi out there. I had to put a repeater.
I don't see any reason why Plex wouldn't work.
Okay, well, I'll give it a shot. I'll have to
you've already got the server.
Yeah.
So put Plex, download the Plex app for those Rokus and just see.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, boy, that'd be a great solution if it did work. What are they graduating from?
They're graduating from high school.
Nice.
Both off to Arizona Christian University.
Fantastic.
Twins, a boy and a girl, both on athletic scholarships.
Wow. What sport?
He's a baseball player, infielder, and she's a tennis player.
Wow. You must be so proud. That's wonderful, John.
Oh, I'm not proud at all.
Congratulations. That's great.
Kids.
Yeah, it's must be wonderful.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Well, next time I get up to wine country, we'll stop in.
Please do.
I will do.
Please do. Always love having visitors in studio. Yeah, it seems like Plex could do that. Wavecom Junior, I don't even know if they still make those little Wavecom devices. RF is a little tricky, because you can't put enough power in that. FCC rules prohibit it from being too powerful. So it might be too long, too distant for the man cave. That's an interesting challenge. I bet you there are people listening. If you are, give us a ring, 8888 Ask Leo, who solved this problem in churches or universities or somewhere like that. David, Orange County or Orange, California. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, David.
Hello. Hey, I'm calling because I'm not very tech savvy. Perfect. And I'm having an issue with email. I'm wondering if you could help me straighten it out.
I will do my best.
All right. So I have sbcglobal.net, which I'm coming to find out is a real old email. I've had it for maybe 15 years.
Wow.
I know.
SBC doesn't even exist anymore.
It doesn't?
Well, they've been acquired, and they've acquired others, and I think it's AT&T now.
AT&T.net.
Yep.
Well, one question would be, would it be any better to switch over to ATT.net?
I wouldn't. I don't like the idea of tying yourself to your internet service provider.
Okay, I understand that.
Because then you're inflexible. And let's say the day comes you think there's a better deal somewhere else. You have an additional speed bump. So what I suggest is that you create an email account with one of the free providers. My favorite is Gmail. That's Google's email. You can set it up in such a way that, first of all, you can do it right now. It's free. There's no charge. The reason it's free, and everybody needs to understand this, is there's ads on it. And Google will go – actually, I think you could turn this off. Google will, by default, go through – look for keywords in your email to give you ads that are things you might be interested in. This can sometimes have hilarious, sometimes creepy results. But I'd prefer to have customized ads than just random ads, because at least they might have something to do with my interests. Either way, it's not like some human is reading your mail. It's done in much the same way it does spam protection. It goes through your email looking for, spammy-like behaviors and then blocks those. And that's, by the way, another thing Gmail does that's very good. It is the best spam filter out there. So what you can do is create a free Gmail account now. In the settings in the Gmail account, you can set it up to get the mail from SBC Global. So you don't have to ever go back to SBC Global, but anybody sends you mail, it will automatically go into your Gmail inbox.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then you can use a variety. Gmail, because it's so popular, many tools. You can use it as a website, but you can also use any email program on any operating system to get your mail. And I think Gmail does a very, very good job of email. So that's my primary emailer, and I think it's a good way to go. Then you start giving out your Gmail address, you can abandon SBC eventually. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. So Rad Dog, I don't have a computer in front of me, but does that link say you can multicast with Plex? And VLC will do it. That's another good one, right? Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Don't spill your wine, but Dick DeBartolo is here, Mad Magazine's maddest writer and the GizWiz. He joins us each week to talk about a gizmo or a gadget. He talks about it at his website, too, gizwiz.biz. Hi, Dickie D.
Leo, how you doing?
How's the weather in Disneyland?
Yeah. Disneyland. It's kind of iffy this weekend. It's going to be rain on and off, and it's just in the high 60s. I
always look forward to this time of year because I like to go to the Christmas show at Radio City Music Hall and see the store windows at Macy's. And
yeah, you should update your calendar. As a techie guy, I think. Yeah.
Right. So,
all right. So I see an ad in the paper for the world's or United States biggest baby gadget show.
Ooh.
In New York City, held on one of the piers. It actually was a big show, and I thought, well, you know what? From CES, learning about that carriage that generated electricity to charge your phone, and there should be some fun stuff there. So
the baby show.
Company,
Wow.
For the baby show, yeah. So the company we talked about months ago with this high-tech carriage is called Four Moms. So it turns out that four dads have a company. But
I
not
bet
to
that's a
confuse
carriage
the-
with a TV built in, right?
No, not quite. They call their company Bloom Baby, just so they're totally away from Four Moms. But Leo, they have what they say is the world's highest, and I'll add probably most expensive, high chair. And
Wait a minute. I don't think really high is what you want in a high chair. What do you mean the world's highest high chair?
Dude, the guy was saying baby high chairs now go just to table height, so the tray is level with yours. But modern folks often eat at the breakfast bar.
Oh.
Or they sit on a stool in the kitchen. Yeah.
It's
and
a
now
breakfast
the baby
bar
is
high chair.
low.
Oh.
Actually, when I saw it, it's a single pedestal stool. It's really quite impressive. Usable from birth to 8 years of age. Okay.
Wait a minute.
So
no 8-year-old's going to sit in the high chair he had as a baby.
Oh, wait a minute, Leah. When it's a baby, it's like a pod, and it lays down, so it's like a bassinet on this rising pole. Then as the child starts growing, you slowly rotate it up toward being a seat.
This is for
And
Italians who never sit down to eat in breakfast. They stand up the whole time.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
And then they have the slip-in tray, and they have the eating tray and the playing tray, the safety harness.
Oh, my God. How much is this going to set me back?
Oh, okay, so it starts at $450 up to $850. Yeah, but you know what? They basically, looking at all the models online, looks like
That's
they're
a little
basically
pricey.
all pretty much the same, but you can get them in chrome. You can get them in a limited edition gold and chrome. But don't forget, if you can use it for 8 years, it's only $100 a year.
And is there a website for this place? Bongo
yes,
Baby?
It's bloombaby.com,
Okay.
and there's a picture of it at gizwiz.biz under Dick Visits the tech guy.
That's me.
Yeah, it's you. That's
Did you
Yeah,
visit
that's-
me today? I didn't see that.
I did.
Oh, man, I'm sorry I missed you.
Yeah.
Gizwiz.biz is his website, GIZWIZ.biz, and there is a big button that says the Gizwiz Visits the Tech Guy. That's where you'll find out about the Bloom Baby $800 highest high chair in the world. But you can also play the What the Heck Is It game. Just click that link there that says What the Heck Is It, and then play the game. You're playing for an autographed copy of Mad Magazine, autographed by this guy right here, Dickie D.
Perfect.
Dick D. Bartolo. Find out more about his podcast, too. He does a great GizWiz show at gizwiz.tv. Okay, Dickie D?
Okay, pal. See you next week.
Thank you for being here. We are not going to be recording calls after the show today. I have some other recordings to do. Tomorrow, though, after the show, we will continue on for another hour, get some calls recorded for my vacation coming up in a couple of weeks. But I will get back to the phones right now. And Brett, who's on the line from Woodbridge, New Jersey. Hi, Brett.
How you doing, Leo? I just have a question about my Android phone. If you know of any apps, Android apps for spam calls, so they do not get through.
Oh, isn't that frustrating? It's almost like I can't answer the phone anymore.
Right.
And these guys are so horrible. They spoof your area code. They're smart enough not to use an 800 number now. They just spoof your area code, so you think it's a local call. Oh, I'm going to answer that, and it's a robo call.
Yes,
it drives me nuts. So all of the telcos I noticed, T-Mobile started it. I know it's AT&T does it now. In their dialers will start warning you that it's a spam call, but they don't block it. There is a company, though, you should know about called Robo. nomorobo.com. It'll work with a landline as well as a cell phone. And what you'll do is you will set it up with Robo, and it will block robo calls. If it's not a robo call, it'll pass it on to you. So effectively, your calls go to them first and then on to you. And I don't use it myself, but so many people I know in our chat room and who are listening to the show, they say, Leo, you got to tell everybody about No Mo Robo. It really works.
I just want my contacts to be able to get through, and that's it.
All right. Well, I do have another way to do that, which works really well, and that is to get a Google Voice number. These are free, and you'll be changing your number. You'll have the idea is one number for the rest of your life because you have it forward to whatever your current number is. You can even have it forward to your home phone, your cell phone, to a number of different phones. But it's one number. That's the one you give out, and in there, you can say, "Don't ring my phone if this person's not in my contact list." It has even more rules. You can have different answering machine messages for different companies. They have all sorts of nice tricks. In fact, there are a lot of companies that do this. Most of them are not free, so that's why I'm telling you about Google Voice. But Grasshopper, there's so many companies that do this, that do kind of digital phone services. And most of them will offer this feature, which is, better call handling. So you can have, for instance, with Google Voice, you've got your favorites, right? Google allows you in your contact list to star, I don't know, 6 or 7 people. Those favorites you can have come through anytime, day or night. But then you could say, but if it's not in my favorites list, if it's only in my contact list, only have them be able to call me between 9 and 5. I don't want the phone to ring at dinner. And I always block blocked caller ID. Although it makes me mad because my doctor uses a blocked caller ID, and it's like, oh, doc, I want to take your calls, but too many fake calls come with no caller ID, so I block those. And you can say, I don't want to get a call. If it's not in my address book, send it straight to voicemail. The funny thing is these robocalls never leave voicemails. That's how you know it's a fake call. They never have a message. I don't know why. Hey, thanks for the call. Thanks to Michael Cozio, my musical director, Kim Schaffer, for answering the phones. Most of all, thanks to you for being here. Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy. Have a great Geek Week. Well, that's it for the Tech Guy Show for today. Thank you so much for being here. And don't forget, it's just the tip of the iceberg. We do nearly 30 shows on the Netcast network. It's called TWIT, T-W-I-T. It stands for This Week in Tech, and you'll find it at twit.tv, including the podcasts. For this show, we talk about Windows on Windows Weekly, Macintosh on Mac Break Weekly, iPads, iPhones, Apple Watches on iOS Today, security on Security Now. I mean, I can go on and on and on. You even get your daily dose of tech news with Tech News Today. And, of course, the big show every Sunday afternoon, This Week in Tech. You'll find it all at twit.tv. And I'll be back next week with another great Tech Guys show. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time.